he looked fine. That's what fans, analysts, and sideline footage all seemed to show. Shedeur Sanders moving without pain, warming up like any other quarterback about to take the field. Then the announcement came, he was out with a back issue. It didn't add up, and it still doesn't. From that moment, a quiet narrative began to shift.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
The story wasn't about an injury anymore. It was about a lie, or at least a version of the truth crafted to keep something or someone off the field. The Browns may have tried to control the optics, but Sanders' unexpected pushback unraveled the entire facade. And now, with Dillon Gabriel struggling and the fan base demanding answers, Cleveland's leadership is trapped between a public relations mess and a roster decision that could define their future. What happens next may not just determine who starts next week, it might decide whether Sanders' NFL career gets the chance it deserves or becomes another case of talent lost to politics. The Cleveland Browns are in the middle of a firestorm, one that could have far-reaching consequences for the team and for Shedeur Sanders, the promising young quarterback at the center of the controversy. The 2025 NFL season, which started with so much promise, is now embroiled in a scandal that questions the integrity of the Browns' decision-making and their commitment to developing their players. At the heart of it all is the mystery surrounding Sanders' benching during the game against the Patriots, a decision that has left fans and analysts scrambling to understand what the team is trying to hide. It all began when the Browns benched Sanders, who had been the backup quarterback, citing a back injury as the reason for his absence. On the surface, this explanation seemed reasonable enough. Injuries happen in football, and sometimes players need to be held out to protect their long-term health. However, everything changed when Sanders spoke out publicly during his post-game interview. He made it clear that it wasn't his decision to sit out. In fact, it was the team's decision. This revelation immediately threw the Browns' official story into question. Sanders was fine, and he wanted to play, but the organization had decided for him that he would not be on the field. This statement was a bombshell. It not only contradicted the injury report provided by the team, but it also raised serious concerns about what was truly happening behind the scenes in Cleveland. Why would the team bench their backup quarterback when he was healthy and eager to play? Was there more to the story than just an injury? Fans and analysts immediately began to speculate. Could it be that the Browns were hiding something? Was there a deeper reason for Sanders' benching that the organization didn't want to disclose? The Browns' secrecy surrounding Sanders' health and the conflicting reports only deepened the mystery and set off a wave of criticism. As the situation developed, more and more questions began to surface. Sanders was seen warming up on the field before the game, and eyewitnesses reported that he showed no signs of discomfort or pain. If he was truly dealing with a back injury, why was he able to warm up with no visible issues? This raised serious doubts about the legitimacy of the injury claim. If Sanders wasn't injured, why was he sitting on the bench? Was the team trying to conceal internal issues, such as poor roster management or even missteps by the coaching staff? The more the Browns refused to provide clear answers, the more the situation seemed to spiral out of control. Fans, players, and analysts were left in the dark, unsure of what was really happening within the organization. Adding to the complexity of the situation was the ongoing performance of Dillon Gabriel, the starting quarterback for the Browns. Gabriel's play had been consistently underwhelming, and his struggles had been apparent for several weeks. Despite this, the team continued to start him, while Sanders sat on the bench. This only intensified scrutiny of the Browns' decision-making process. If Gabriel wasn't performing well, why wasn't Sanders being given the chance to step in and potentially turn the season around? The continued faith the Browns showed in Gabriel, despite his poor performance, seemed odd, especially considering Sanders was available and eager to play. The situation began to look like a case of favoritism, where Gabriel was being kept in the game out of some misplaced loyalty, while Sanders, who had shown promise, was left out in the cold. Many speculated that the Browns were trying to protect Gabriel's development or their investment in him. Perhaps they feared that starting Sanders, even if he was ready, might disrupt their long-term plans or reveal shortcomings in their quarterback decision-making. It seemed like the Browns were playing it safe by sticking with Gabriel, even if it meant continuing to underperform, rather than taking a risk on a young quarterback who might need time to adjust but had the potential to be the future of the franchise. The situation raised broader questions about the way the Browns were handling their roster and, more specifically, the development of Shedeur Sanders. By keeping him on the sidelines, the Browns weren't just depriving Sanders of playing time, they were potentially stunting his growth as a quarterback. Every game he missed was another opportunity for him to gain experience and build his confidence. Football is a game of learning through experience, and Sanders needed those reps to develop into the player the Browns hoped he would be. Instead, the team seemed content to let him rot on the bench, while their current starter struggled to make any meaningful impact. This situation also brought to light the potential double standards in NFL player management. While Sanders was sidelined for an alleged injury, Gabriel continued to start despite consistently underperforming. This differential treatment wasn't just frustrating to fans, it was glaringly obvious. Why was the team so hesitant to give Sanders a chance to prove himself, while continuing to allow Gabriel to struggle week after week? The Browns' handling of this situation highlighted the potential flaws in the way NFL teams often prioritize their assets and manage young players. It appeared as if the team was more concerned with protecting their reputation or trying to maintain stability, even if that meant sacrificing the development of one of their most promising players. The longer the Browns refused to be transparent about Sanders' benching, the more damage it did to their reputation. Secrecy within an organization only fosters distrust, and the Browns were quickly losing the trust of their fan base. Fans weren't asking for an in-depth explanation of every decision made behind closed doors, but they did expect some degree of honesty when it came to the health and development of one of the team's most important assets. By withholding information, the Browns weren't just creating confusion, they were eroding the trust of their supporters, who wanted nothing more than to see the team succeed. The lack of transparency surrounding Sanders' injury and the ongoing benching raised serious questions about the organization's priorities. Was the Browns' management more concerned with maintaining control over their roster than with actually developing their young players? By keeping Sanders sidelined, the Browns were potentially harming his career development, and in doing so, they were putting their own future at risk. If the Browns were serious about building a championship-caliber team, they needed to start making decisions based on what was best for the long-term success of the franchise, not just protecting their immediate reputation. Moreover, Sanders' willingness to publicly call out the team's narrative was a rare example of a player pushing back against the traditional power dynamic in the NFL. Too often, players are expected to stay quiet, to accept decisions made by their teams without question. But Sanders wasn't willing to stay silent. His decision to speak out set a powerful precedent for other players who might feel similarly mistreated or sidelined. In doing so, Sanders wasn't just fighting for himself, he was challenging the broader culture within the NFL, where players' voices are too often ignored in favor of protecting organizational interests. Looking ahead, the Browns have a critical choice to make. They can continue to protect their image and risk wasting Sanders' potential, or they can choose to be transparent, give Sanders a real opportunity to play, and prioritize the future of their franchise. This isn't just about one player or one season. It's about the culture the Browns want to build, and how they treat the players who will define their future. In conclusion, the way the Cleveland Browns handle Shedeur Sanders will have long-lasting consequences, not just for the young quarterback, but for the organization as a whole. This situation is a critical moment for the team to show they are committed to transparency, honesty, and the long-term development of their players. If the Browns want to prove they are serious about building a winning culture, they need to start by giving Sanders the chance he deserves to prove himself on the field. If they continue to play games with his future, they risk losing not only their young star but also the trust of their fans and the integrity of the organization. If you feel as strongly about this situation as we are, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Should the Browns start Sanders now, or are they justified in holding him back? Let us know what you think, and don't forget to like and share if you believe it's time for the Browns to make a decision. Subscribe to stay updated on the latest developments in this unfolding story. It's far from over, and we'll be here to cover every twist and turn. The Cleveland Browns have dug themselves into a hole so deep that even the most loyal fans are beginning to question if they'll ever get out. The 2025 NFL season was supposed to be one of hope and redemption for the long-struggling franchise, but instead, it's become the backdrop for a scandal that has rocked the very core of the organization. At the center of it all is Shedeur Sanders, the rookie quarterback who, up until recently, was seen as the future of the Browns. Now, thanks to a series of questionable decisions and a significant lack of transparency, his future with the team is in jeopardy. It all started with Sanders benching during the Browns game against the New England Patriots. The official word from the team was that Sanders had suffered a back injury and would be sidelined for the game. On paper, this explanation seemed harmless enough. Injuries are part of the game. But when Sanders took to the post-game interview and revealed that it wasn't his decision to sit out, but rather a call made by the team, everything changed. This one statement from Sanders opened the floodgates, exposing a level of secrecy and internal dysfunction within the Browns that no one could have predicted. Fans, analysts, and players alike began to wonder what was really happening in Cleveland. Was Sanders really injured? Or was the team hiding something more significant? It's not uncommon for organizations to be less than transparent when it comes to injury reports, but the way the Browns handled this situation felt different. It felt like they were trying to cover up something that wasn't just an injury but perhaps deeper issues with the team's management, roster decisions, or even internal conflicts. The mystery surrounding Sanders' injury became more complicated when eyewitnesses at the game reported that they saw Sanders warming up on the field without any visible signs of discomfort. In fact, he appeared perfectly healthy. If he was able to warm up, why wasn't he playing? If the injury was as serious as the team had suggested, why was Sanders so visibly fine before the game? These inconsistencies raised serious doubts about the legitimacy of the injury claim. Was the Browns organization just trying to shield Sanders from a situation they feared might expose other issues with their roster? Were they protecting him from potential failure, or was there something more nefarious at play? The lack of clear answers only deepened the confusion and set off a firestorm of speculation. Fans started questioning the Browns' handling of their young quarterback. Was the team really trying to protect Sanders' development, or were they more interested in protecting their reputation and avoiding scrutiny? The longer the Browns remained silent, the more fuel they added to the fire. And at the same time, the team's performance continued to spiral downward. Dillon Gabriel, the starting quarterback, continued to underperform week after week, but the Browns stuck with him, even as it became clear that the offense was stagnant and the team was struggling. Despite his inability to move the ball effectively, Gabriel remained the starter, while Sanders, a promising rookie, sat on the sidelines. This decision by the Browns to keep Gabriel in the starting role, despite his struggles, raised even more questions. Why would a team that was clearly in need of a spark continue to roll with a quarterback who wasn't getting the job done? Gabriel's performances were far from inspiring, yet the Browns kept him in the game. In contrast, Sanders, who had shown glimpses of brilliance, was left waiting for a chance that never came. It was clear to anyone watching that Sanders should have been given an opportunity to play. After all, if Gabriel wasn't performing, what did the Browns have to lose? A young quarterback like Sanders could be the future of the team, and keeping him on the bench felt like a missed opportunity to see what he could truly offer. In camp, the fact that the Browns continued to give Gabriel a shot while keeping Sanders sidelined only added to the sense of frustration. It seemed like a clear case of favoritism, where the team's desire to protect its investment in Gabriel overshadowed the need to develop a player who might be the future of the franchise. This differential treatment between Gabriel and Sanders, two quarterbacks with vastly different levels of potential, was hard to ignore. How could the Browns justify giving Gabriel so many chances, especially when he was clearly not performing, while Sanders sat idly by, unable to get on the field? As the situation continued to unfold, it became increasingly clear that there was a larger issue at play. The Browns weren't just mishandling a young player, they were mishandling their entire organizational strategy. The team's decision to keep Sanders on the bench was no longer just about football. It was about the culture within the Browns organization, about their approach to player development, and about the way they communicated with both their players and their fans. By keeping Sanders out of the lineup, The Browns weren't just damaging his career, they were sending a message to the rest of the league that they were more concerned with protecting their image than with making decisions that were best for their future. The more the Browns refused to clarify the situation, the worse it got. They were failing at transparency, and that's a critical mistake for any organization. When you keep your players and your fans in the dark, you erode trust. Trust is the foundation of any successful team, and right now, the Browns are losing it in droves. Fans want to believe in the team and its vision for the future. But when the organization withholds information and refuses to explain its decisions, it creates a toxic atmosphere. It's one thing to make a bad decision, it's another to make a decision and then refuse to take responsibility for it. At the center of this whole mess is Shedeur Sanders, a young quarterback with a lot to prove. He's shown he has the talent to be a star, but he's been trapped in a situation where his potential is being held hostage by the Browns' decision-making. Every week he spends on the bench is a week of lost opportunity, a week where he could have been learning, growing, and proving himself as the leader the Browns need. Instead, he's left to watch from the sidelines while a struggling veteran quarterback gets the Lions' share of the playing time. Browns camp. The way the Browns have handled this situation is not just a disappointment for Sanders, it's a betrayal. The team drafted him with high expectations, but instead of giving him the chance to live up to those expectations, they've kept him sidelined and left him in the dark about his future. The question now is, will the Browns continue down this path of secrecy and mismanagement, or will they step up and give Sanders the chance he deserves to prove himself on the field? Every moment they waste, they risk damaging his development and, ultimately, his future with the team. It's not just about Sanders anymore. It's about the future of the Cleveland Browns. The team's handling of this situation could define the trajectory of the franchise for years to come. If the Browns continue to prioritize short-term stability and image over the long-term development of their players, they risk becoming the same franchise that has failed year after year. But if they make the decision to put Sanders in the game, to let him show what he's capable of, they could turn the tide and begin building the foundation for a successful future. The clock is ticking, and the Browns need to act before it's too late. So, what should the Browns do now? They have a choice to make. They can continue down the path of secrecy, or they can come clean, give Sanders the chance to prove himself, and start building a team that's truly focused on the future. The decision is in their hands, and how they handle it will determine not just the future of Shedeur Sanders, but the future of the entire organization. As the Shedeur Sanders saga continues to unfold, it's clear that the Cleveland Browns are at a crossroads. The decisions they make moving forward will shape the future of their franchise, and right now, the path they've chosen is fraught with uncertainty and controversy. The team's handling of their young quarterback has become one of the most talked about issues of the season. What was supposed to be a moment for Sanders to shine has instead turned into a tale of missed opportunities, secrecy, and mismanagement. Let's face it, this isn't just about a quarterback being benched. This is about how the Browns are treating their future. Shedeur Sanders is one of the most talented young quarterbacks to come into the NFL in recent years, and instead of giving him the chance to develop and lead the team, the Browns have kept him sidelined for reasons that have never been fully explained. When Sanders revealed that it wasn't his decision to sit out, but rather a choice made by the team, it raised red flags everywhere. Why was the Browns front office so determined to keep him off the field? Was it really about an injury, or was there something deeper going on? What makes this all the more frustrating is the fact that Sanders himself has made it clear that he wanted to play. He wasn't injured to the point where he couldn't perform. Yet, the Browns chose to keep him out. And that's where the questions multiply. Was it about protecting Sanders from injury, or was the team trying to protect its reputation, its assets, or its investment in players like Dillon Gabriel? Gabriel, the starting quarterback, continued to struggle week after week, yet he was allowed to stay on the field while Sanders, who could have given the offense a much-needed jolt, sat on the bench. This discrepancy in treatment is what really stands out. It's one thing to make a tough decision about a rookie quarterback. It's another to favor a player who isn't performing over someone who's clearly ready to take the reins. Sanders is not some unknown quantity. He's a highly skilled rookie who's shown flashes of greatness. Yet the Browns are making him wait for his opportunity while a less capable quarterback stumbles through games. The Browns are caught in a delicate balance here. They have a young quarterback in Sanders who could be the future of the franchise, yet they seem hesitant to give him a fair shot. Perhaps they're afraid of what might happen if he doesn't succeed immediately. Maybe they fear that if Sanders were to start and falter, it could hurt their investment in Gabriel or tarnish the team's public image. But at what cost? By continuing to keep Sanders sidelined, the Browns risk stalling his development and undermining the long-term success of the franchise. A young quarterback needs to play to grow, and the longer Sanders is kept in limbo, the more it impacts his ability to mature into the player the team believes he can be. And then there's the matter of trust. When an organization withholds critical information, especially regarding the health and status of one of its most promising players, it creates an atmosphere of suspicion. Fans are rightfully upset. This situation feels like another example of the Browns not being upfront with their supporters. How can fans trust an organization that refuses to communicate honestly about its decisions? Transparency is vital, and the Browns have failed to live up to the basic expectations of trust and openness. The pressure is mounting on the Browns. Every week that they keep Sanders on the bench while Gabriel continues to struggle only adds to the narrative that the Browns are mishandling their young quarterback. If they want to build a winning culture, they need to start making decisions based on what's best for their future, not just what's comfortable in the moment. The Browns have the chance to turn this situation around, but only if they have the courage to make the right call. What do you think? Should the Browns finally give Sanders a shot at starting, or are they right to hold him back? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and share this post if you believe it's time for the Browns to make a decision. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on the latest updates as this story continues to unfold. The clock is ticking, and the Browns have to make a move soon.